What's up, everyone? Jason Gelbo here with Rob Mazika, taking a look at tonight's NBA slate. You and I looking over the slate beforehand here, and basically value on tonight's slate is absolutely awful. And it's kind of weird because we've been dealing with basically an overload of value over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I think that's why it's hard to find right now. I think the sites realized how cheap some of their players have been and how easy it has been to make lineups. And I think they just juiced up everyone who they think is going to get run, regardless if they're gonna or not.
Yeah, I mean, DK's been obviously on top of things this year, bumping guys up into that mid 5K range pretty quickly. FanDuel, I mean, there's still some cheap guys, but for the most part, it's like we're looking at some names here up over 6K that I would never even imagine seeing over 6K.
For real, especially on DraftKings, CJ McConnell, 6,200. That's just way too high for him. And that's just an example of what these prices are like today.
Yeah, really are. Indiana, Toronto, first one here, 204 total. Fairly moderate total here, I guess. Paul George is probably the only one that I can get behind on the Indiana side.
Same here. He's been shooting the ball a lot lately. He came out and said that if he has to score 40 points a game for them to win, he'll try. And it's not a bad spot for him. He's going to get that DeRozan defense, maybe a little DeMarre Carroll, but it's still a spot where the amount of volume he's going to get, he should perform.
Yeah, he really should. I mean, the usage is going to be there. As you said, I mean, basically, I don't really see anyone else scoring. I mean, outside of Jeff Teague, none of these secondary options are really good offensive threats right now.
I agree. On the Toronto side, though, I like DeRozan just because he's basically this offense since Lowry's been down over 40 fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. Against Indiana, it's a spot where he could really perform.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I mean, with Harden kind of dealing with the wrist issue and with the lack of value, I don't mind using him as the premium shooting guard tonight.
I don't either. And then a cheap guy I like a little bit is Jonas Valanciunas. He's been playing well the last 2 games. He only gets about 28, 29 minutes a game, but Indiana is one of the worst rebounding teams in the league, and he's coming off a 14 and 15 game.
Yeah, I mean, centers against Indiana have actually been really well this year. I mean, one, you mentioned it, the rebounding rate's horrible. I definitely don't mind him. I mean, the minutes are always scary, and he's always just a GPP play for me, but I mean, we're basically talking all GPPs anyway at this point.
Yeah, he shouldn't be playing cash at this point.
So, that was it for me for that game. I mean, Denver, Charlotte, next one here, 219. Denver with kind of everyone sort of healthy. I mean, they've all kind of clouded each other up a little bit. I mean, in terms of the upside, Jokic is probably the only one that really has it.
Yeah, he is. He really hasn't shown it a lot lately, other than that Indiana game and the Houston game last week. But his price is way down 9,100 on DraftKings, and with his upside, I don't mind it in tournaments.
I don't either. I mean, Charlotte, one, he crushed them earlier this year, 31 and 14 and 4. I mean, I think he's going to garnish maybe a little bit lower ownership because I think a lot of people go towards Boogie in the revenge game. You got Gobert, who's crushing as well, and there's a decent amount of mid-range options too.
Yeah, an 11-game slate, everyone should come lower on than usual, but he's going to be down there.
Yeah. As far as like Gallinari and Chandler go, I mean, I don't mind them. I don't love them though. A decent spot for them at that mid 6K range. I mean, I definitely think they can hit their value.
Yeah, it's a decent spot for both of them. They don't really carry a lot of upside, but they should be able to hit their value. You're right.
As far as Charlotte, I mean, Kemba Walker is the only guy that I'm looking at home where he's always played well in his career. Great matchup against Denver, who are bottom 5 against point guards. So with this game being 219 and a 2-point spread, I mean, Kemba's going to carry the way offensively.
Yeah, that's how I see it too. It's March. It's Kemba Walker. He loves playing in March. Denver's really bad against the point guard. It's a spot where he could have an upside game. And one other guy I'm looking to on the team is Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. He hasn't really shown a big game lately, but these fast-paced games are the ones where he really excels.
Yeah, and with Charlotte 110 total, I mean, over their season average, I definitely don't mind going to those secondary guys.
I don't either.
Orlando and Boston, next one here. As far as the Orlando side of things go, I mean, Terrence Ross grades out as one of the better value plays. I mean, he had a stretch where he was absolutely awful for about 4 or 5 games, but has come around of late. 103 total. These guys are getting solid minutes. I guess the blowout concern is there. I mean, Boston did blow them out last time, but I definitely don't mind these Orlando plays at their price tags.
I don't either. Terrence Ross, he's cheap on one of the few players who are cheap on both sites. Usable on DraftKings at 5,100, and FanDuel he's only 4,400. So I mean, if his shot's falling, he should hit his value. Other guys in Orlando, Vucevic and Payton, they're both GPP plays for me. Boston's a bad rebounding team, and centers against Boston is a thing. And then Peyton, he can just come out and get a triple-double anytime.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. Alfred Payton, I think this game is kind of a decent game stack if you do think it's close because some of the guys on Boston have come down in price. I do like Vucevic quite a bit. I like Horford's price a lot on DraftKings, 6,700. And if this game does stay close, I mean, the way he's been dishing out kind of his peripheral numbers of late, it gives him a solid floor. And, usually we don't see ceiling with Horford a ton, but it's actually decent if this game does stay close.
Yeah, I can see if it stays close, but he's a safe play regardless of the score, though. He should get you around 30 fantasy points at least.
Yeah, and Thomas is in play. I mean, just because the price is coming down, and he scored 30 real points in each of the last 3 games. So the big usage, the big fourth quarter performances, if he needs it here, they're back.
Yeah, he's carrying this team, and they need to win. So he's going to do all he can to get that 1 seed.
Philly, Cleveland, blowout concern here. I mean, 10-point spread. I could definitely see it being more. Cleveland coming out after a bad loss in Chicago. Not a ton of love here in this game as far as the 217 total goes, though.
No, not much, especially on the Cleveland side because this game's most likely going to blow out. You could play LeBron or Kyrie hoping to stay close, but it's tough with Philly just pretty much in tank mode. And then Philly, there's a couple guys in the backcourt who we could use, like Stauskas or Timothy Luwawu Cabaret. But it's a tough game to find value in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not on the front court guys in a tough matchup. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Basically, the backcourt. I mean, McConnell's more in play on FanDuel where he's cheaper. 6'2", I just have a hard time paying that price, even though it's a good spot for him.
I can't do it on DraftKings 6'2", but FanDuel, he's much more usable.
Yeah. Next game here, which, I mean, this is probably going to change as we head into the night because Knicks are basically a mess as they've been all season. Derrick Rose, questionable. Carmelo Anthony, questionable. You and I were joking around. Well, not joking around because it actually happened, but Ron Baker, 40 minutes and failed to hit value at a bare min price tag.
That's terrible. He's out there for 40 minutes and hit 15 fantasy points on DraftKings. 5x's value at 3K is not going to cut it.
No, it's not. It was funny to see. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, he's going to draw the start again. I mean, I guess if you're looking to go stars and scrubs and kind of hoping that he obviously throws up a better performance than last time out, I mean, you can go that route because the mints are going to be there if Rose is out, but don't expect, anything crazy.
I can't do it. He doesn't belong in the league. He really doesn't. But there's other players who I do have some interest in on the Knicks, specifically my guy, Hernan Gomez. It's 5,600 on DraftKings. His price is high, but Whiteside's been giving up some big games to opposing centers, and if this game does stay close somehow, he should get some extended run.
Yeah, I like him. I mean, always a good tournament option. Porzingis, I mean, he's been the safest Knicks option as we go down the stretch here. I definitely don't mind him tonight. And if Melo's out, I mean, Kuzminskas is going to draw the start again and see probably 30-plus minutes. I don't mind him. I mean, I think just because we're kind of lacking value on tonight's slate, he'll open things up a little bit.
I don't mind him either. He's always chalky when Melo's out, too.
Yeah. And on the Miami side, Josh Richardson was the only one that I was really looking at. Shooting guards against the Knicks is always a positive matchup. Richardson, coming off a great game last time out. It was kind of picking things up a little bit more as we go on here.
I don't mind him. His score's a little inflated from last game since he got 5 steals, and I don't see him doing that again. But on the Heat, I really like Goran Dragic. Knicks are terrible against point guards, and he's averaging over 45 fantasy points against this team in the last 2 meetings.
Yeah, I mean, with Waiters out, Dragic's carrying the load offensively. And he's at a really nice price in comparison to the other higher point guards.
Yeah, he's definitely in a good spot at 7,400 on DraftKings.
Spurs Thunder, next one here. Basically, I feel like everyone's a bit overpriced. And with the lack of value, I can't make a Westbrook lineup.
I can't either. I wouldn't argue against it in tournaments just because it is Westbrook. But I just can't see the value, especially at 13-3 on FanDuel against the Spurs. It's just too much.
Yeah, I mean, even with the 209 total, it's like all these guys are the price tags where I'm just like, ugh. Kawhi Leonard's a little pricey for me. None of these secondary Spurs options like Danny Green, Tony Parker, Dwayne Dedmon, I mean, I don't want a piece of them.
I don't either. This is pretty much I'm pretty much staying away from this game as a whole. It's maybe Steven Adams because he does have potential to put up a double-double in this game at a cheap price on both sides, but it's a low possibility that he does that.
Yeah, and we every now and then we get some big Pau Gasol games, but I mean, I'd rather use a couple other guys with similar price tags.
Same here.
We get to a revenge game here, Kings and Pelicans. I mean, DeMarcus Cousins going up against his old team. I'm kind of bummed it's not in Sacramento, but I'll take it.
I'll take it too. He's probably going to be the highest owned player tonight, but it's a great spot for him. You know, the whole team's going to be motivated to get him going, and he's going to put on a show.
And his price is down.
Yeah, it's down on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, 9,600 on both sides. Good spot here against the Kings. I know you had a guy that you were looking at as far as a backcourt guy for New Orleans if you need some deep value.
Yeah, I'm looking towards Jordan Crawford. Last 3 games, over 20 fantasy points. He's going to get you around between 25 and 30 minutes in a game tonight against the weak Sacramento backcourt. So it's definitely a spot if you really need a cheap shooting guard value. He's not a bad option.
No, he's on the Kings side. It's just way too sporadic with minutes. Everyone's kind of back in the backcourt. I don't want any part of the front court against this team right now with both of them healthy.
No, not at all. And pretty much everyone's healthy in Sacramento, so the backcourt's a mess, the front court's a mess. It's just too tough to peg the guy who's going to get more run, and even then they're priced up.
Yeah, I think the only real viable option, I mean, Buddy Hield on FanDuel, I mean, 5,100. One, I mean, he's got the revenge game against the team that traded him. And his minutes have actually been fairly safe. And coming off really tough matchups in the last 2 games, he was actually playing pretty well before that.
I don't mind Buddy, especially in tournaments, not in cash at all, though.
Detroit-Milwaukee, next one here, 198 total, not really appealing. Some front court guys we have some interest in. Ish Smith, a little pricey on tonight's slate. If Del Doa is, I mean, obviously going to draw the start, I mean, that's kind of a downgrade in the matchup.
Yeah, it is kind of a downgrade. The only guy I'm really looking towards on Detroit is Andre Drummond, and it's just because he's destroyed Milwaukee throughout his entire career. And I know they're coming off a back-to-back against the Nets, a close game too, but if he can get a full 30 minutes plus in this game, he should have a huge upside game.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Drummond has crushed him over his career. Milwaukee's a bad rebound team, bad against centers. Center on the other side I do like is Greg Monroe. One, I mean, he always just gets up for games against Detroit, his old team. He's averaged 16, 7, and 2 this year against them. Mints have kind of been on the safer side of late. I mean, knock on wood with Jason Kidd, but has seen 25-plus minutes in each of the last 4 games, and he's a high-usage guy off the bench.
He looks locked into that 25-minute mark, and against his old team, I really like the play.
Yeah, 5,300 on DK, not bad. And with Brogdon being ruled out, I mean, do you have any interest in the surrounding kind of superstar guys? I mean, I think they'll draw some lower ownership tonight just because it's 11-game slate and there are other options to pay up for.
With Brogdon ruled out, it bumps my interest in Giannis slightly, but it's still kind of a tough matchup against a slower-paced Detroit team.
Yeah, I mean, with that total, and he hasn't played particularly well against Detroit this year either.
No, he hasn't.
Dallas-Memphis, 191. There's not much here.
There's nothing. Zach Randolph on FanDuel at 5,600. It's going to be a popular play. I don't mind it, but DraftKings, I'm staying away from the whole game, and pretty much away from him, I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, 6,700 on DraftKings is expensive for me. As you said, FanDuel only. You know, with Gasol and Green being ruled out, I mean, you're going to see some run from Brandon Wright. I don't feel like you need to dive down at center on FanDuel at 3,600 to use them. You might be able to get away with it on DraftKings, especially if you can come in and lock down a double-double as he nearly did last time out for close to bare minimum.
I just don't see it against Dallas, but especially with him. It's a slower pace. It's going to be the slowest paced game, really low scoring. I just don't think he has upside.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's more only just stars and scrubs if you're going that approach.
Yeah, definitely.
Washington Jazz, 206. Washington, basically, I mean, this is a team that's been running really hot offensively, but they're going to probably run into a little bit of a wall here tonight.
Yeah, Utah's a very tough team to play against, especially at home. Really big pace down game for Washington. Tough matchup for the entire team. Maybe you can get away with using John Wall with George Hill being ruled out, and plus he's had over 65 fantasy points in his last 3 games, which is insane at 9,200. But other than that, I'm really not looking towards anyone on Washington.
No, I mean, Gortat's been bad. Markieff Morris has been bad. Beal's a little bit expensive for me. Yeah, I mean, basically Wall with his upside's the only one I can really look at. And on Utah, I mean, I don't mind going back to Gobert on DK because 8,200 is still not that bad. FanDuel price 9K is a little too expensive for me. He doesn't get the benefits of the double bonuses and stuff like that.
I really like Gobert in this spot. Over the last few games, he's had block totals of 8, 4, 2, 5, and then last game he didn't have any blocks, but it was a blowout against Sacramento, so he really didn't need to. But he's been on fire lately, one of the hottest plays just in general. FanDuel at 9K, I can't do it, but DraftKings 8,200, he's firmly in play.
Yeah, he really is. And as far as another guy, I mean, Rodney Hood on FanDuel, only 4K. He sees a bump in usage with George Hill out. Hit a decent mark last time out, but it was a blowout. I don't mind him over there.
I don't mind him either. He's tough to trust, but on FanDuel at 4K, you really don't need too much from him. You just got to hope his shot falls.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. Houston Golden State, 230 here. This one's interesting. Obviously, Houston on the back-to-back. James Harden dealing with the wrist issue. I can kind of see this one blowing out. I mean, for one, Golden State, they are 9-point favorites, but I don't know. I feel like they could actually run away with this one tonight, maybe.
They could, especially with the way Harden's been shooting. 2 of 13 from 3 last night. Houston coming off a tough game at Portland last night, and they're on a back-to-back. Going to Golden State's never an easy place to play. But, I mean, Harden, he could always have one of those games where he just comes out of nowhere and scores 85-plus fantasy points.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with getting some exposure to him. I'm not going to go heavy. As far as the guys that have been picked up in the absence of Ryan Anderson, I mean, Trevor Ariza has been really solid in 3 games. I mean, one, the steals have been what's giving him a crazy high ceiling. But, I mean, if he keeps doing that in fast-paced games, I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it, too, especially on FanDuel at 5,600. 5,900 is a little high. I'd still do it, though, on DraftKings. He's just – until his price gets over 6K, I'm going to keep using him.
Yeah, me too. And, the guards here, like Aaron Gordon, back-to-back down games. Lou Williams has been a little bit more consistent. I don't mind Williams. I mean, 5,400 on DK is not that bad. And obviously they're going to need his scoring.
Yeah, it's tough to figure out which one's going to do well between the two of them. I like another guy on this Houston team, though, in the front court, and we got a narrative. Montrezl Harrell's coming off paternity leave. He's got a newborn son. It's his first game with his son. I'm all about those narratives. Minimum price on DraftKings, and he has played well against the Warriors in 2 prior meetings.
Yeah, and Danae's out, so another big body that can free up some minutes for him. And both shooting guards, Gordon and Lou Williams, are under 5K, so I think you can find FanDuel where you can take viable shots with them.
You could. It's just very hard to predict which one you're going to get. If you get it right, you could win a lot of money. It's just it's a guessing game, really.
Yeah, and as far as the Warriors side, back-to-back finally big games from Curry. Put up a big game against Houston last time out. I like him on DK. I mean, 9,500 is a reasonable price for him.
It is reasonable. His shot's fallen. He's been on fire lately. Double-doubles the assists in 3 of his last 4 games. It's a good spot for him, even against Patrick Beverley defense. Draymond Green is another guy we could look at. He got that triple-double upside. And even Klay Thompson against James Harden defense, 25 points the other night against them. He could do it again if he gets hot.
Yep, I mean, basically the big 3 here. Draymond Green comes in as one of my favorite plays because the price is not that expensive. I mean, below 8K on both sides.
Yeah, but the thing is with all these guys are going to be very popular. So if you really want to just fade the entire game in tournaments, there's nothing wrong with that in an 11-game slate.
No, really not. I mean, especially with some other high totals. So that's going to wrap things up here. You can check out dailyfantasycafe.com for our great tools and content.
Yep, good luck, everyone.